I know a lot of you, many of you have been wondering about the state of Luigi Mangione. What is happening with that case? So I do have an update about the Luigi case, as well as how are viewers, like how is the public in the US viewing Luigi? Like, what is their perception about Luigi? And I mean like man on the street vibes. And then how is the media? What is their perception of Luigi? And you're going to see a difference. You're going to see how the public feels about him. And then you're going to see how the women of The View feel about Luigi. And I think you're going to see a difference here. And we're going to point out some of the hypocrisy about the healthcare system and the way that people chose to ignore a real solution to this. So the first update that we have is that the NYPD is claiming that there are now fingerprints that match Luigi's fingerprints that have been found at the scene. They are also saying that the shell casings match the gun that they found on him. Let's get started with this clip here, ladies and gentlemen, from ABC News.
The NYPD commissioner now saying that the gun found on Luigi Mangione matches shell casings found at the scene where United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson was murdered. The 26-year-old suspect is being held right now in a Pennsylvania jail cell, fighting extradition to New York. Investigators collecting clues for a possible motive, looking at Mangione's writings and fingerprints found on items near the shooting scene in Manhattan. Our Phil Lipoff joins us now with all the latest details. All right, what do we know about the gun, Phil?
Well, we know that the NYPD was able to get it back from Pennsylvania to the crime lab here in New York. And this is a big piece of evidence, Akira. Up until now, the evidence that had been piling up, the video, the items that were found on Mangione in Pennsylvania when he was found at that McDonald's were largely circumstantial up until today. Now they have matched fingerprints on a bottle and a phone found near the crime scene to Mangione's fingerprints, and just within the last half hour or so, we got word from the New York police commissioner that the gun that was taken from Mangione when he was found in that McDonald's has been flown back here to New York and matched to the 3 shell casings that they found at the murder scene.
So we mentioned that Mangione is fighting extradition to New York. What are the next steps in the legal process here?
The next step will be an extradition hearing, and from speaking to legal experts, the bar in an extradition hearing is relatively low. You have to prove that this is the person you're looking for, and you have probable cause to bring him back. Now, I spoke to ABC contributor Brian Buckmeyer, and he said to me, when you have evidence like this, fingerprint evidence, and a gun matching shell casings at a crime scene, with the bar being so low, it appears he will be brought back here to New York. We don't know that yet. Next step is a hearing.
So one of the things that I want to add here is that Luigi's lawyer says to keep an open mind. So just FYI, he's been doing a number of interviews if you haven't seen any of those. What is really weird to me, again, I told you this case makes no sense to me. And I'm someone that has watched a lot of true crime, okay? You can ask my friends, like they'll tell you, like, I'm really into like the true crime documentaries, like who done it or did they do it? And what doesn't make any sense to me is that, so let me get this straight. So he took the book bag, but left a water bottle. Like this guy again is incredibly smart. Like from what I understand, incredibly smart kid. I just don't understand like some of these mistakes that have been made. It does not feel right to me. But they are saying that his fingerprints do match the scene. They found the fingerprints on a water bottle. I don't know why he would have left a water bottle. Like, I just don't, these things don't add up to me. So that's just my take. But his lawyer is saying to keep an open mind there. But now they are having even more evidence to link him to that particular crime in New York that day. What is the public's perception about this, though? And I wanted you to see something. You might be surprised by this. It appears there was an interview that News Nation, they were reporting out on the field outside of that facility in Pennsylvania. And apparently you can hear inmates yelling from outside, I guess the courtyard or whatever, saying free Luigi, and that Luigi's conditions are not good. So, Luigi apparently is in his own, I guess, like holding cell from what I remember. And the prisoners seem to be on his side. Listen to this.
This was just from a few hours ago, and here they are, 10 o'clock as promised. They said earlier today, tell Ashley Banfield that Luigi is watching at 10 o'clock. I mean, obviously, that's just a hard roast at this point because they're not near Luigi in any way.
Can I just ask the guys if they can hear me right now to answer yes or no very loud? Does Luigi have television in his single cell?
No.
Unreal. They said no, right? Obviously, we have a little bit of a delay, but they're getting. Yeah, they're getting the questions, and they're giving us the answers. So Luigi does not have. Wow, this is quite something. This is the strangest interview I've ever conducted.
Me too, Ashley. According to the Department of Corrections, he's got his own solitary cell. It's not solitary confinement, but he's by himself. It's not dorm style. I'm not sure exactly what those guys got going on in terms of a living situation. It sounds like they're all clustered together. Isn't it interesting to see what accommodations that they have? They got their own light switches. They're obviously watching TV
they're all doing
past any sort of 10 o'clock curfew, Yep, they're doing this for you. They're watching News Nation at this very moment.
Yeah, so it appears that Luigi, I guess, is getting the support of his fellow cellmates. And it's crazy that he's in solitary confinement because I have never approved of solitary confinement. I think it's inhumane. And I think it's meant to drive you, honestly, mentally ill. I think it's meant to drive people crazy. But his lawyer, I want you to hear what his lawyer had to say here. There have been a number of people that have been reaching out to offer to pay for Luigi's bills. Listen to this and listen to his response to Caitlin Clark's question about that here.
You were retained today. One big question that everyone has is, are you being paid by his family to represent him?
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on that.
Well, can you say that it's not his family who is asking you to retain him, or to retaining you to represent him?
I'm not going to comment on. I'm not going to comment on that. That's I've been retained. I'm not court appointed. I've been retained, and that's all I can tell you.
We had seen reports earlier that there was, people were inundating you with offers to help pay for his legal bills.
Oh, pause. I'm so sorry. Did I say Caitlin Clark? Why am I? Caitlin, you guys knew what I'm talking about. Go ahead.
That accurate?
I have received some emails. I have not seen them personally, but my understanding from my staff is people are doing that.
That people are reaching out to you and offering to help pay for his legal bills.
That's correct.
Would you accept those offers? I mean, I imagine you maybe have, I don't know. Have you ever gotten that before?
Nah, be honest with you, I probably wouldn't.
He reminds me of My Cousin Vinny. If you guys have ever seen the movie My Cousin Vinny, please watch that movie. He reminds me of Vinny, that is, Joe Pesci's character in the movie, where he's just kind of like, he's like, nah, nah, I don't know. Are you telling me that the laws of physics do not work in your kitchen?
Why do you think you would not accept that?
I don't know. I just don't know. I just don't feel comfortable about that. So I don't know. I haven't given that much thought, but I'm not looking, obviously my client appreciates the support that he has, but I don't know. I just, I'd have to look in, but it just doesn't sit right with me, really.
Why do you think they're offering?
I don't know. People, you talk about, the Supreme Court says, all these rich billionaires can give all kind of money to candidates, and that's free speech. So maybe these people are exercising their right to free speech and saying that's the way they're supporting my client.
Oh, and that was like a mic drop moment there, if I ever heard one, because he used that opportunity to criticize the billionaire class. Like, he just kind of slid that in there. It's like, well, I don't know. The Supreme Court says that such and such. Bam! There it is. There it is. And look at the look on Caitlin's face. She's like, uh-oh, he said the B word. He said the B word.
You noted there that you said he supports or he appreciates the support that he's getting. Did he acknowledge that when you had a conversation with him earlier about how we have seen this intense public interest in him himself?
Yeah, unfortunately, Caitlin, I can't get into anything that my client and I talk about. So by law, I'm not permitted to reveal anything that's attorney-client privilege in any conversation that occurs between he and I is simply that.
Should we play it again? People keep telling me to play that part again. So yeah, let's do it.
You know, obviously my client appreciates the support that he has, but I don't know. I just, I'd have to look in, but it just doesn't sit right with me, really.
Why do you think they're offering?
I don't know. People, you talk about, the Supreme Court says, all these rich billionaires can give all kind of money to candidates, and that's free speech. So maybe these people are exercising their right to free speech and saying that's the way they're supporting my client.
Hey! Billionaire moment! Dance with me! Dance with me! Like that moment! Dance with me! We had to do it, guys. I'm sorry, but we did. We had to do it. That was a mic drop moment there, okay? So very well said. They're very, obviously there's only so much that he can discuss about it. He can't give into obviously too many details. But I want you to see something else as well, because on the show, again, I gotta be very clear here. We do not advocate for people to go out and do what Luigi did. That being said, he has everyone in the country right now talking about the corrupt healthcare system, so much to the point that somebody in New York put up wanted posters for healthcare CEOs. Check this out.
Do you see this? Do you see this? Deny, defend, oppose at the bottom of it?
You see what this tells me right here? People are starting to see that the billionaire class, the corporations, it's, again, I told you, it's top bottom. There's been more and less focus on left, right, and people focusing on top, bottom. The conversations that a lot of people are having right now about the healthcare system, it's top, bottom. And here's the thing. Health insurance companies don't discriminate against you based on your political ideology. There's people who are conservatives that have been screwed over by health insurance companies, that have gone into debt, that have gone into bankruptcy because they can't pay like the medical bills, or because they've spent so much in treatment, particularly when it applies to cases like cancer. That's where I've seen and I've heard about these stories before, where people have been diagnosed with cancer and they go into bankruptcy because they can't afford the treatments, and the insurance company either doesn't want to pay or can only pay so much. So they don't care if you're conservative or if you're a Democrat. They care about money. That's what they care about. So they love to deny these claims. They don't really care about our well-being. Now, that's what you see from the general public. That's the general public consensus. And I want to show you the difference when we get into the way that The View chose to talk about this. Corporate media. I want to show you how they are discussing the situation. Check this out.
Strong and polarizing reactions continue over the killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Yesterday, alleged assassin Luigi Mangione had this outburst while he was being taken into a Pennsylvania court. Take a look.
And completely out of touch and insult the intelligence of the American people and lived experience.
And there's been widespread condemnation of the killing. And then there's supporters of Mangione, as well as an outpouring of people posting healthcare horror stories about claims of being denied. Now, the vast majority of Americans want the healthcare industry fixed. But I got to tell you, murdering someone is not the way to do it. Mm-hmm. So what is this I guess people are thinking of it as a lack of empathy over this murder. What does it say about where people's heads are at?
I don't know if it's a lack of empathy or people are outraged by the healthcare system in this country. It doesn't justify killing anybody, to me, anyway. I think it's a very stupid idea, bad idea. But, you know, when you read the, Murder's bad. Voting good, murder bad.
Yeah,
okay, let's get that straight. And it doesn't seem like a lot of people go bankrupt. 500,000 people go bankrupt in this country every year because of healthcare issues. It doesn't seem like an American idea that only rich people can afford to be sick. And yet it is an American idea.
Yeah, but some people assign.
Pause. Joy Behar, who supported Bernie Sanders in 2016, apparently must have got a bug in her ear from producers because come 2020, she was against Bernie Sanders' campaign and actually made fun of him when he wasn't on The View, and they kind of laughed at his face when he came onto The View in 2020. Bernie Sanders was the most popular candidate that really was pushing the Medicare for All issue. Now, all these years later, they want to sit here and talk about how many people go bankrupt during, because of the health insurance in this country, yada, yada. Bernie Sanders sat there on The View and told you this multiple times, and he wasn't the only one. And you guys shunned him. You guys looked away because that's what the producers wanted you to do. So don't like Joy and the rest of you, don't try to sit back there now and pretend like you care about people going bankrupt because of the healthcare system in this country. You had one candidate who won multiple states in the Dem primary in 2016, and the DNC gave some of those states to Hillary Clinton, took those wins from Bernie Sanders and gave some of those wins to Hillary Clinton. And you guys went along with, we got to be for her. Let's elect Hillary Clinton, who did not run on Medicare for All, who does not approve of that system. So all of a sudden now you guys want to come forward and pretend like you care about the health of Americans. But when there was multiple opportunities for you to jump on board with that and support that cause, not only did you push back against it, you said, oh no, you might get Trump. No, this is the system that we have, but this is how it's always been. So don't buy into this, ladies and gentlemen.
If you don't feel a little bit of glee, or that you're out of touch, or you don't understand, and I'm sorry, but at the lowest low, this is not the way I was raised. My heart is not allow for this. Check in with your minister, check in with your parents, check in with someone, because if you in any way feel this was the answer, you need to look at yourself. And that's
are ministers paying healthcare bills? Anyone let me know. Is anyone's pastor offering to pay for these treatments and these healthcare bills? Holla at me.
This guy had every privilege in the world. I've said this before. His grandfather was frustrated with things. He didn't like government bureaucracy. He was a bricklayer, an immigrant, and had 10 kids. And guess what he did? He created nursing homes. He didn't like the country club in their...
Let's pause here for a second. Here we go with the grandfather did this. So not thinking about the fact that during that time, that was a different economic time in this country. Back then, you could have 10 kids and still make something of your life. You can't do that today unless you already have money or you come from money. So let's talk about that. So now the argument is, if you were upset with the way that things were, look at what the grandfather did. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps and just try to make something for yourself and your life. And that's what drives me crazy. Let's go back to what grandpa did, knowing damn well that wages have not adjusted for inflation in this country. Yes, he did come from a family that was pretty privileged, but from what I understand, it's not like his family members were billionaires, but he did come from privilege. Just because he comes from privilege doesn't mean he doesn't see the flaws within the system. So let's stop with the grandfather saw things were bad and he came with no or little money and he decided to start his own company. She knows damn well that's almost near impossible for most people growing up in poverty to do today. So let's stop it with that talking point. She goes on here.
Areas he had money and wealth because they didn't treat him right. So he opened his own country club. This guy is...
Open his own country club, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have a problem with the healthcare system and the way that you're treated, save up your pennies and open your own country club. Dun, dun, dun. Courtesy of Sarah from The View.
Fighting on the back of that family and all they built. He could have gone in to a system and done something, and he's trying to be a revolutionary. This is a civilized country. We don't do this. And by
Pause. This is not a civilized country, and we do those things. Two things we're going to break down here. This, for her to say this is not what we do in this country, what the hell are you talking about? America is one of the most violent countries in the world. Are we serious? We have one of the highest rates of depression, of mental illness. We have one of the highest rates of violence. We have the highest rate of mass school shootings in this country when you compare us to other countries in the world. What the hell do you mean this is not who we are? That is always what this country has been. America was born out of violence. What is she talking about? Two, the part where she said if he didn't like it, he should have tried to change it inside the system. There have been multiple candidates that have come onto your show, Sarah, that tried to change it from inside the system, and they ultimately failed because of Democrat leadership and because big money controls the party. Not only did they fail in doing that because of big money interests, but you and your co-host sat around that table and avidly pushed back against those candidates for trying to change the system. You pushed back against Bernie Sanders. You said, you're going to take our health care away when he came onto The View. All of a sudden, they pretend like we don't remember these things. I remember. What does South Park say? I remember. Some of us do remember. You guys pushed back on these people. And you only embraced AOC after she came on and said, that's Mama Bear right there. Once she got in line, you liked her too. But every one of those candidates that came onto The View and said, we need to get some type of Medicare for all system, we need universal health care, you guys dogged them out and treated them like trash. So how are you supposed to change things from inside a system when not only is big money interest against you, but the corporate media, such as yourself, is also against you? They seem to think that we forget these things. I don't forget these things. They're seriously sitting up here and pretending like nobody tried to do this from inside the system.
By the way, this does not change things for everyone that's sitting there. They're going to put one more pawn in there. If you want to change it, and I understand the outrage. There are people sitting in emergency rooms with 1-year-olds, people that can't get beds for kids with disabilities. The list goes on and on. I am not.
She understands the outrage after she had to read those statistics off of her sheet of paper because she doesn't have that experience. These women make a lot of money. You don't understand the outrage. You understand what you just read off that sheet of paper. But personally, you've never had that experience. Some of us have. I'm one of those people that have. I had medical debt. I know what it's like to have medical debt. It took me 3 years to pay off it. 3 years to pay off medical debt. And that is because at the time, my job did not have health insurance, didn't offer it. That's right. Not everybody offers health insurance. This was also during 2008, during the housing crisis. It took me 3 years to pay off medical debt. Sarah does not know. Sarah does not understand. Sarah does not live the way that a lot of us have had to live. And most of those women sitting around that table, they haven't had to do that. Joy sat up there and mentioned one time herself. She said, when I went to college in New York, I went to city school in New York, we paid $50. So like I said, they're out of touch. You are out of touch, Sarah. They're out of touch and they don't understand what it's like to be working class today.
Out of touch with the reasons. This is never the answer. Who's next? What elite is next?
It's a microcosm of what's wrong with a lot of our society, and I think a lot of it's driven by the internet and the digital space, which is, this is a person, he's good looking. Oh no, we're so surprised good looking people commit crimes. He's coming out.
Ted Bundy.
Yeah, exactly. He's coming out in favor of a cause that I think people generally agree the American health care system is not great. He's not offering a solution. He had a 2-page manifesto. There wasn't a single line, as I read it, that explained, okay, so what would you like to do? What would be better than the system that we live in? And then there's this desire to cheerlead and kind of create like fan lore around this person rather than address, okay, the one takeaway we should have, well, the two, this is wrong, and now there are going to be kids who don't have a father on Christmas Day because this.
I have to stop her there. This is Alyssa Farah. A lot of people may not remember this, but Alyssa Farah was on Rising. This was during that transition period when Crystal and Sagar were about to leave The Hill Rising. She was on Rising there and she was very nervous, and somehow she managed to make her way from Rising for that 1 week over to The View. Don't ask me, but these things happen. What Alyssa Farah tends to leave out here is she is blaming Luigi for not coming up with a solution, but the solutions have been presented to you multiple times. You just don't want to accept it. The solution is universal health care in this country, like other standard countries in the world have. That's the solution. And the fact that you sit here and pretend as though this has never been brought to you, and she's going to tell on herself, watch this. Hold on.
CEO was killed, but secondarily that we all agree there may be a collective problem, but what are we doing to try to fix it? And I'm so frustrated that the discourse seems to be more around like celebrating him and excitement or like anger over the system, but not talking about solutions. And even, and this is not, I want to be careful on how I say this, Bernie Sanders and Senator Warren put out statements decrying the ills of the healthcare system. Yeah. But they're part of the system. I think that we need to hold those who are in places of power who can make changes more accountable than to actually do so.
So this is where she tells on herself. So she knows that Bernie Sanders advocates for Medicare for all. So why is she telling you there is no system? What is the solution? I'd like to hear the solution. Then she goes on to mention Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. So she knows. You don't spend a whole week on Rising of the Crystal and Saga during that time talked about Medicare for all over and over and over and over. Now all of a sudden you want to pretend like you don't know about a solution. You knew about the solution. So there's that. But as much criticism as I have for Bernie Sanders today, Bernie Sanders himself as a senator can't make all the senators vote for Medicare for all. What he could have done, though, was that he could have organized his base to withhold their vote for Joe Biden without Medicare for all. He could have done that. But now she's saying hold them accountable when the real people that need to be held accountable are the politicians that are against it, the politicians that did not sign on for it. Bernie Sanders did write a whole damn bill about Medicare for all. Why is she pretending like he's the one that doesn't want it? It's the other politicians that don't want it. And more importantly, it's the health insurance companies that don't want it, and they own the politicians. So these women, they try to pretend like they don't know. They try to pretend like they're dumb or ignorant to the situation, but they're not.
Well, why go after two liberals?
Well, because they put out statements specifically on
let Sunny get in here.
I mean, I agree with mostly everything that's been said. I mean, we know that, only about 31% of Americans trust our healthcare system. We have a terrible healthcare system. And, doctors suffer because of big corporations as well. Doctors that want to do good, like my husband, operates on someone even though they don't have insurance and then has to sue health insurance companies to get paid for the work that he's been trained his whole life to do. So there are a lot of problems with it. But the notion that we are in a violent country, this country was built on violence. We're a very violent country. And it's just undeniable that that's the case. And so I'm not, unfortunately, surprised that people are celebrating the use of violence. I'm not surprised that this young man thought that change could be accomplished through violence. 1 in 4 Americans say violence against government sometimes is justified. And today, in 2024, 1 in 10 Americans say violence is justified right now against corporations and government.
That's very scary.
Those are just.
And even though I don't think he might change something, he might have laid out a plan for a copycat. That's what I see.
Yeah. And really, I mean, the thing to also.
Yeah, I think it's more scary that health insurance companies continue to kill people every day.
Keep in mind is, yes, solutions are needed, and they need to be recognized when they're offered. Because we've had lots of solutions, lots of suggestions. We got Obamacare, then we got to fight for it. People who don't have insurance have to fight to find a way. We have solutions. We just don't do them. It's like
Whoopi has no idea what she's talking about because Obamacare was not a solution. Obamacare was, maybe like a baby step here, but the solution is to give everyone health care. The solution is Medicare for all, universal health care, whatever you want to call it. It's like what they have in the UK, what they have in some of these other countries like Norway and Denmark, etc. That's the solution. Obamacare actually made things worse for some people because it was more expensive than they expected it to be. I had a friend that was on Obamacare and they couldn't even afford that. So Obamacare did not fix the problem, which is to give everybody health care. It increased it some. If that was a solution, honey, why did Joe Biden run on we're going to expand Obamacare, which he didn't even do that. But you get what I'm saying? So that wasn't a solution. So what she's trying to do is still trying to downplay how cruel the healthcare system is by saying, well, the solution was Obamacare, when you damn sure know that was not the solution, when these health insurance companies continue to send people to their death by not paying for their claims, you're paying into it. All of us pay for it. This comes out of your paycheck every month. And then these health insurance companies just push back and say, no, we're not going to help you. No, you're not going to get, sorry, this isn't covered. It's covered this year, but next year it's not going to be covered. People who need life-saving medication like EpiPens. Do you know how much an EpiPen can cost if it's not $500? So this in itself just shows you again the class issue. And although, yes, Luigi may have come from a pretty wealthy background, even he was smart enough to realize what was happening with the healthcare system in this country, while these women sit around a table and pretend not to realize it. All the politicians that have come onto that show and have had this in your face and you push back against it, you didn't want to hear it. You guys were sitting up there kissing Joe Biden's ass, who had no real plan for health care for people in this country. Let me expand Obamacare. People tend to forget this. But even if you go back to probably one of my favorite shows, which was Breaking Bad, even Breaking Bad had to deal with the healthcare industry. Let's all remember what happened to Walter White. Walter White was diagnosed with lung cancer. Everybody remember this? This is what prompted him to go start selling drugs. Not advocating for that, by the way. But this is what prompted him to doing that. We've seen it a number of times. If you saw the movie John Q, that was about the healthcare industry. There's been a number of times, even Hollywood tried to tell you how horrible the health insurance industry is in this country. And for these women to sit up here and pretend like they just heard about this yesterday, it's insane. It's absurd. So one thing I can say that has come from all of this so far is that everyone is talking about the healthcare industry. Everybody, whether it's independent or corporate media. And it shouldn't have to come to this. It shouldn't have come to, what Luigi did to get everybody to talk about how crazy this health insurance system is in this country and how to fix it. What a mess. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.